Hi everybody and welcome back to Women Meets Motherhood. Today we are joined by a lovely couple, Kofi and Abigail, and they are here to share the extraordinary story about their son Austin coming into this world. But before we get onto that, it would be great for you guys to let us know about yourselves, you as in a relationship, you know, how long you've been married before Austin came along, just a bit about you so our viewers get to know you.
So the name is Kofi, as you said. We met in Ghana a couple of years back now. I went for a wedding as a best man, and I approached this lovely lady. But this was in Ghana. Fast forward months on, she came to study here in the UK, and we kept in touch after the wedding. Were you in the UK? I was based in the UK. But she was in Ghana, but she came to study. And so we sort of rekindled that friendship that we met each other in Ghana, and the rest was history.
So how long have you been married?
6 years.
And before you decided to have a baby, did you decide to have a baby straight away and were trying, or did you, how was your family planning when you first got married?
I think we just thought, as a newlywed, we didn't really want to rush into just starting a family. We just wanted to enjoy each other. So it was a matter of giving ourselves a breather, just to know each other, just enjoy life, and be a married couple before childbirth. So it took us 3 years, not because we were not, it was just we wanted to have that space to enjoy our marriage before sort of.
So was it 2 years into marriage you fell pregnant? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. And was that a planned pregnancy?
It just happened. I think I was ready, but he was whatever happened. Yeah, and it happened.
Yeah, my philosophy is you make the best of what life presents to you. So I wouldn't put a ruler or a scale to everything and measure and say by the end of next month I want Abigail to get pregnant. But open for pregnancy, but in the word plan, as in whether we put in a Gantt chart to it, that's what we want to do. It wasn't like that, but I think, yeah, there was that openness to, after 3 years or 2 years, as we felt ready when it came.
Okay,
yeah.
That's good. So you found out you're pregnant. How was your pregnancy? How was the pregnancy journey for you guys?
The pregnancy itself was brilliant. I think I had a smooth pregnancy. I was working, I was doing everything. I was running up and down. We moved when I was pregnant. I think I was 6 or 7 months pregnant, and I was helping to carry an American fridge. So it tells you how strong I was. So I think the pregnancy itself was smooth. And even before I had Austin, I went to work, came back from work on a Saturday, and then went into hospital.
Oh, wow.
So I had to call my work to say, I've had a baby, I'm on mat leave
now.
Yeah.
So prior to that though, how was your scans? So you had your first scan, your second scan, everything normal?
Yes, all my scans were normal. I had to have more scans than usual because I'm on medication for high blood pressure. Okay. So I had to go for scans every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it was all normal. And I think the Saturday, as I came back from work, I was preparing for a program on Sunday, and then I realized I was bleeding. So I went into hospital. Kofi took me into hospital, and they decided to keep me in for a while. So they did a scan, and that's when they picked up that Austin may have an enlarged heart when I was still pregnant.
How far into your pregnancy was this?
36 weeks.
Okay.
So up until 36 weeks, even though you were having scans frequently, everything as far as they were concerned was normal.
They didn't pick up anything. Everything was normal as far as they were concerned. So they said I need to have another scan, which was on the Wednesday, 3rd December. I went in on a Saturday, I'm not sure what date it was.
Yeah.
So they said it's best to just stay in hospital, and then I could go into a different, because they didn't have the facilities to read what they saw properly. So when Basingstoke, so they asked that we'll go to Southampton for a scan on Wednesday. So I was in hospital, but the morning before the scan was the day Austin decided to come out. So I had him before the final scan. So they were in a panic because they weren't really sure. They thought the scan would then teach them what to do next, what the course of action would be. But then because he came before the scan, everyone was confused. The doctors, they didn't even know exactly what to do.
Can I just stop you there? So you had a scan 36 weeks and they think, oh, his heart is enlarged. At that moment, what were you thinking? What were you thinking, Kofi? Were you worried or panicked, or just thought, oh, everything's fine up to now? It's probably just, what were you thinking?
So the word cardiac is always a panic moment. So there was that split moment of what is happening and trying to understand what, because the word that was used was a cardiac enlargement. And so anything that has got to do with the heart, you just want to sort of understand what was going on. So there was that panic moment, or what are they talking about? But then they didn't have yes, they wanted to do a scan. So I was reassured by myself and my faith that it's fine. And so there was that moment of when a doctor says, we think there's a cardiac problem, where you think, oh, okay, take your time, let's talk about this. And then the conversation of, we are not sure, we want to do a scan. And then before, she was already in labor. So it wasn't a panic moment, but it was a moment to reflect, to see, go back to your medical books to understand for an unborn child what cardiac problem could be.
And I guess for Abigail, for you, do you feel like them saying, oh, cardiac enlargement, do you think that triggered labor? Do you think that maybe you, I don't know how you were feeling about that news, do you think that may have contributed to you going into labor?
I don't really think so. I think for me, it was waiting to now have the actual scan on Wednesday to now think of, this is what's happening. Because I always find that doctors want to be cautious. So sometimes they say, oh, it could be this, but as long as they've not actually said, this is what it is, I wasn't really scared. But I was a bit worried because I knew as long as there's a potential for something to go wrong. So I was a bit worried, but I don't really think that caused labor, because I was in hospital, they were feeding me all right. Okay. I didn't have to do any cleaning or cooking.
So you were relaxed?
I was relaxed. I was having fun. It was like a mini holiday.
At that time, did they tell you about what all the risks were of cardiac? No. So you didn't really know at all?
No, it was, they said, this is what we think we've seen, but you need to go to Southampton because they're specialists in the cardiac
that would have concreted it, but before that everyone was just like, we'll just see. Yeah. So you were okay with that, we'll just see.
So how was your labour?
I think my labour was a funny one because I didn't know I was in labour. Okay. And no one knew I was in labour. Kofi came to visit me after work on Tuesday, and then when he said he was leaving, I felt some pain, sharp pain. So I was like, I think I'm in labor. And he was like, oh, you're just playing up because I'm leaving. You don't want me to leave.
I can imagine you saying that.
And I said, no, you can leave, but I thought I'll let you know because I'm definitely feeling something. So he left and I was on my own in the room. And after some time, it started getting frequent and a bit more painful. So I called the nurses and said, I think I'm having contractions. And they were like, oh, I think it's Braxton Hicks, so it's nothing to worry about. Do you need paracetamol? And I said, well, if it's Braxton Hicks, then I don't need anything. Yeah. So I endured the pain on my own. And later they brought some monitor to check the intensity of the pain. And I'll just cringe on my own and just be quiet. I didn't take any painkiller, nothing. I had him without any, without any help or painkiller or pain relief whatsoever. So the morning, I think Wednesday.
So you had a normal vaginal?
Yeah. So when I then said, I need to use the toilet, they thought, what's happening? So they checked the chart and they said, you could go to the toilet and have a baby, so we need to check your dilation.
So up until now, they didn't think you were in labour?
No, they didn't. So they checked and they said, you're 9 centimeters dilated. You're going to have a baby now, whether you're ready or not.
So was Kofi here at this time?
No, I was on my own. So then I told them I need to call my husband. So I picked up the phone and I called him and said, you need to come now because I'm going to have a baby. He was asleep. It was about 5 a.m. or something.
So you live close to the hospital?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
That's my excuse.
So it was, I think, when they realized that my waters broke and he came and saw the color, I think he got worried when he saw the color.
So
he just knew there was something wrong.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. I know you've got a medical background. Is that because of your background you knew?
No, I think, you know, when you see something, you have your gut feeling tells you. It had nothing to do with being clinical, but I saw the situation, my gut feeling was, this was not...
Just because of how the colour of the
Yes.
waters? Wow. What colour was it?
Well, in medical terms, so there's a bit of pus in it,
Yeah.
and then it was brownish in colour, so, yeah.
So you gave birth to, did they highlight to you that they thought something was wrong, the midwives or anyone in the room?
Yeah, so before I went into the delivery room, when I went to the delivery room, instead of a midwife, it was a doctor that delivered him, because she came and she said, you know what's happened because the scan, we've not gone to Southampton yet, so we don't really know what's happening. We need to get him out as soon as possible. So she was a bit firm. She said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to push. If it doesn't come out, I'm getting forceps. If it doesn't come out, we're going to theatre. It's a C-section. Wow. Are you ready? I was like, yeah. Because they just wanted to make sure he comes out as safely as possible. Yeah. So they prepared me for theatre, saying,
in case.
Yeah.
That's the steps we're going to take. So when I pushed, I think 3 times and he wasn't coming, they just got the forceps out. They just cut me, pulled his head out, and he came out and he wasn't breathing. And I think you took over from there because they were taking care of me and you went down with Austin.
So they took him away and you went with them?
No, I took my child.
So what happened? So they took him out and he wasn't breathing.
Yes.
So then they passed. What happened?
No, I demanded to have
Did you?
my, yes.
Wow.
So I took, so she took the baby first, as in, so the forceps, that's the consultant, passed it on to, and then she said Austin wasn't breathing at that point and they were going to get the oxygen. So I said, can I have him? So I held him, and I think in just like Paul, in the silence of one's prayer.
Wow.
And so it wasn't a loud proclamation of, but a father's prayer was what I always call it. And I knew that he wasn't dead.
Wow.
So just before the oxygen came in and then the doctor said, he's alive now.
Wow.
So he didn't cry initially.
How long was this time? I'm just trying to... I don't know, it probably felt like a lifetime, but how long probably wasn't he breathing for?
It's difficult to put time to it. We're not talking about minutes, but so before the oxygen came in, I had him, and then oxygen came in. So even when the oxygen was on, he was still not breathing. So they had to do intubation. So that went in. So it's just a tube. So that, and then once it went in, you could see he was trying to gag out, and then he started breathing and responding. And that was how his consciousness came.
So Abigail, how are you feeling? Because you're away from the situation at this point in time, where you kind of panicked because you can't be next to him because they're taking care of you. What was going through your mind?
Everything was going through my mind. I was thinking, what's happening to him? When they left me, he wasn't breathing. Is he breathing now? Is he okay? What's wrong with my son? And the doctors were like, we need to take care of you first. He'll be fine. So I think they gave me some antibiotics because I was shivering, and they said I need to go to bed. So I slept a bit, and then when I woke up, they told me that I think Kofi came and I could see him now. So they put me in a wheelchair, and they took me down to the pediatric intensive care unit to go and see how he's doing. So when I went, he had lots of tubes, oxygen.
So at this point, we they'd moved Austin from Basingstoke Hospital to Southampton because they were still suspecting.
I'm talking before he went to...
That's the neonatal care.
Neonatal, yeah, sorry. So that's neonatal, so not intensive care, so that's neonatal. Okay. Yeah, so we went to the neonate. I just saw him for about a minute or so, and then they wheeled me back to my room, and then Kofi and Austin left to Southampton.
So there was no prognosis still at this point. They just wanted to get him to Southampton for them to give a prognosis.
But they didn't know, so at this point they didn't know that his heart, they didn't actually know if anything was wrong with his heart. They just knew he wasn't breathing when he came out. Or
So when I felt his pulse, so he had a shallow pulse, and I guess that's where I was saying that the prayer of the Father. So I knew there was life. Because it wasn't dead. It wasn't not just not breathing, but there was a shallow pulse. And I think the consultant at that point was taking care of Abigail, but the doctor I could see the smile on her face once Austin started responding and was breathing. And I was reassured. I think through it all, there is that panic moment where you think as a father, have I lost my child? But then when we got to the new and all the tubes went in, it wasn't a moment of what is happening at that point. It was more of my faith has kicked in at that point, and it was not a matter of whether I'm clinical, whether I was the father. It was a matter of God, this is time for you to perform.
So they take him to Southampton, and you're not with him?
Yeah, I'm still in Basingstoke.
But if he's with him, what happens then?
A lot of conversation. So all the consultants were coming to talk to me about what they think they are going to do and the scans, and we were quite blessed because we had one of the very senior consultants, cardiac consultant from South Africa, who was in Southampton at that time. So getting him a slot was a challenging one because he was full to book 15 minutes, and he came in to the pediatric unit because he was going for a meeting, and so they just pulled him to come and look after Austin. Another consultant in Southampton just asked him to. So he sort of knew Austin from day one because he had just come in impromptu for a meeting, and he was just out of his schedule, was told to have a look at him, and he had a chat with me. He was a man of faith as well. So our conversation quickly turned into start praying. And so just like the graph, you have that moment where you think it's okay, and then as human as you are, when the messages start flowing, you have that dip in faith and you are sort of questioning it again, and then you have someone who just sort of encourages you in that faith. And so within a couple of hours, my faith graph was not linear, so it was all over the place. A moment you're thinking, God, you're praying and you feel it, and then there's that message that comes in and we go, we're waiting for a consultant, we don't know what's going on, and you go, and then you sort of start praying and sort of intensifying and going, God, what is happening, and you start questioning yourself and questioning your faith, and then someone sort of encourages you, especially a consultant, and you just sort of lifts up again.
So what was Austin's diagnosis? What were they saying?
So when they did the test or the scan, it was nothing to do with the heart, but it was with the veins, so what we call AVM, the artery venous malfunction to the liver. So because of the amount of blood that was flowing into the liver was too much, the heart had to work a bit more, and so the enlargement of the heart was nothing to do with the heart itself. It was because too many veins were producing too much blood that was feeding into the liver and causing the heart to overwork.
Were you being updated?
So I had to discharge myself from the hospital in Basingstoke because I just couldn't.
Wait.
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening. I just wanted to know what was happening. I think because Kofi has some medical background, he understands a bit more, but they had to explain to me to know exactly what was happening to Austin, to say So basically what they said was, there's a vein that connects your heart to the liver, pumps blood to and fro. So instead of having one, the easiest way they could explain to me was his was like spaghetti. So many of them, a lot of them pumping so much blood that the heart just has to work, like overwork, in order to be able to keep up with the blood flow. That's why the heart had enlarged. So as if they're able to correct that blood flow, then the heart should correct itself. But they didn't know what to do to correct it, and they didn't have the capacity to do it in Southampton, and therefore he had to go to a different hospital. I think you did most of that. Most of it I was told, because when Kofi had to deal with most of it because I was away from the
So
scene.
how long were you by yourself for in Basingstoke?
So I was by myself. So I had him early morning Wednesday. So I was on my own Wednesday all day, Thursday all day. So Thursday night, I then discharged myself. I drove from, I'm not sure how I got there. Well, I think it was the ambulance. Honestly, I don't remember how I got to Southampton. But
And what kind of journey is that, Basingstoke to Southampton? Is it far?
It's motor. It's about 45 minutes. In the ambulance. I got there, and when I got there, Kofi told me that he'd met a consultant who said she can arrange. I think. Do you want to share that part of the story?
So when everything was going on, and this is where I talk about, in God's own ways, when you are down, he sort of sends a miracle through someone. So I met one of the consultants who I'd worked with when I was serving in the military. And so she also came in by default and met me and said what I was doing. Then I said, oh, my son has been admitted. And so she was able to speak to the consultant that she knew me. And so that Austin's care was not privileged, but there was a sense of agency to it. And when they noticed that it wasn't cardiac, which was Southampton's specialty, but it was a liver problem, there was a need to decide where to take it. And so the only hospital that had a bed was in Birmingham.
I had a bed.
I had a bed. And then we had King's College in London, but they didn't have a bed. And so
it's deciding which one to go to.
The decision had then been made to take us into Birmingham. And so.
Okay, we're going to stop there and find out what happens next when Austin was taken to Birmingham. Yes.
King's College.
So he was at King's College in the end.
The decision was to go to Birmingham, but then because of some favours from the consultant, because he knew Kofi, she was able to get us into King's College. They had to discharge, make a bed space for him.
That's not a short journey.
No, it isn't, and it's very far from home. It would be difficult for Kofi to see him. To see him.
Okay, so he was transferred from Southampton to King's College.
Yes.
So we're going to stop there and find out what happens. This is definitely like a bell chart. Where's it going next? But and it's just extraordinary that this is your first baby. It's not even you've never experienced labour, never experienced and this is what you're handed, and how do you deal with it? And at the moment, I hear great pose from Kofi and great as well. Like I guess the superwoman, and you discharged yourself, which is amazing. But we are gonna take a break here, and we'll do a part 2. So thank you to all our viewers for tuning in to this extraordinary story of Against All Odds. There is more to come. And so definitely don't forget to tune in next week to get part 2. But also like, subscribe, comment, and don't forget to always be empowered, encouraged, and equipped. So thank you. Till next time.